name is Nechama Katan. Are you, I'm assuming you're able to see my window, or you will tell me if you can't. And I am, and absolutely, yes, questions. So, what do you need to know about Gen AI and ChatGPT? So the first thing is, what is it? So it's what's called a large language model, and it's trained on lots and lots of data. We've basically gone from having sweatshops of people in Asia making tennis shoes to sweatshops of people in low cost areas who are doing um, cleaning up data for these large language models, which is why the data is only good until 2021. It's 2 years old. And the other thing you need to know about large language models is it's only as good as the question or the data, and sometimes it's wrong. So I asked it this morning, what does a K-12 student need to know about Gen AI? And it came up with Gen AI is genetic artificial intelligence. Not really helpful, right? It didn't even know what itself was. Okay, so then I said, and then I clicked the little bad button on it, and it said, oh, yep, okay, here's another option. It gave me two options. If I look at my chat window, I can see that now I've got two options, and it says, oh, yeah. Gen AI is generative artificial intelligence or general artificial intelligence. And it said you need to understand basically how it doesn't work and what can it do. So the first thing to keep in mind here is if you ask it a general question, it's going to come up with something possibly wrong. All right. So the next thing is, and that possible wrong thing is that it hallucinates. So it made up this whole field of genetic AI, or possibly that field exists, but it's not. And I put my slides, I was going to put them in presenter mode, but if I do that, Mia, then you can't, I'm going to do some demos. But it can be fun if you're writing fiction, and less so if you need to check what it's doing. So where is it helpful? It can be very, very helpful for writing Python. It's not as helpful for photo editing, turns out, in my experience. Okay, where's it being used? So it's being used in a lot of different tools, and I think that's what most people don't quite understand, is that yes, you can come over here to ChatGPT, and that's what ChatGPT looks like. This is my particular window of it. I don't have ChatGPT 4, but that's okay, and I can write in a question here. I can also go over to Bard. Bard is another generative AI tool that exists, and we could put in a similar prompt. So I've got either ChatGPT or Bard are my two, kind of the two common ones. But in addition to that, it's being used embedded inside of other tools. So let's start with a couple of these basic things. So can it write an essay? Yes. So if I say I am a ninth grader and just read Grapes of Wrath, please write a what I read this summer essay. Okay? And it's going to sit down and write it out. So, oh, good God. And no, ninth grader would actually write in those types of terms. It explains what it is. So now it's written it in as a summer sun blazes, right? Like that's not a ninth grader writing. But it writes something. Okay. So if and you can put something like this into here, and you can put it into Bard, and you'll find that they will come up with two completely different answers. And so that's also helpful. This one's written a little bit more ninth grade, right? I read it. Grapes of Wrath is a powerful novel, blah, 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 reflection, etc. Okay. So I've written something. That is not how I would suggest you use it, though. What works for me better is if I put in a number of ideas in draft format. So I write in 2 or 3 or 4 things. I did this yesterday. I think I can actually find it. here, I was trying to organize an event for the synagogue. So I said, rewrite as a synagogue newsletter. Here's a sign up for an event. Here's some stuff. And it rewrote it quite nicely. Right. And then it was too long. So I said, okay, that's great. Now please rewrite it as 200 words. So it put it in again, wrote it very well. So this is a good example of how, non-students are using this, and probably even students. Is I've got some ideas. I don't want it to make something up, but I just wanted to rewrite it a little bit. It did make up a few things, but they were probably things that I should have thought of to add. So that's good. Okay. The next thing that it does an amazing job is of summarizing data. So I've actually keyed this up for you guys. Yeah, and take a poll. Go ahead and answer the poll of who you are. So if I open up I went to the data science conference, just so you guys know, I completely grabbed this, right? So I come to the data science conference, connect YouTube, and I grab a video on delivering effective AI. I click on this. I have added a tool called Glass, which is right here. So this is my Glass tool. So I say, please, it's a 20-minute write-up. Please open up, it opens up a chat window. And it throws in, if I open up to the top, you can see, summarized in the following 5 bullet points. So it grabbed the entire transcript, which you can't do in ChatGPT usually because you run out of words. So I've done this on over an hour long. And it told me the presentation is about creating effective data presentation, non-technical. The speaker's book is this, success in writing a live presentation depends on, etc. So it's outlined this pretty well. And then let's say this was my particular workshop that I gave, then I could say use the above to write a blog post. For a IT journal blog, use as much jargon as you can. Right, it's kind of cool, right? So it sits here and it writes out an actual blog post based off of that material up above. Does this need to be read and reviewed? Absolutely. You need to go in, read it, review it, make sure it makes sense. But for a first draft, it cuts the amount of writing time down. So that's an example. I want to show you another one, which is called Loop Genius. So there's a organization here called Neuron, and I get their newsletter. And what the Neuron does is that every day it sends out kind of what's going on in AI, what's interesting, what are some of the cool apps. And so I'll come here to the home page and pick up top tools. So if I wanted to understand, so when I said that ChatGPT is now buried inside of other things, these are all tools that call ChatGPT. So when you opened up Glass over here, it actually opened up a ChatGPT window, so you saw that you moved into ChatGPT. But watch this. So this is Loop Genius. So you guys are kids. Give me a business name for a side gig that you'd want to do as a kid, like a summer job. Anyone? We'll do my daughters first, and then I'll, if I see something coming in the chat, we'll do a second one. So what does she do? So this is called Pet Portraits by Zaeva. What does she do? She takes a picture, a photo of a family pet, and paints it in watercolor so that you can increase, that you can capture your favorite pet in a handcrafted heirloom. Okay. All right. Now I ask it to generate a website. And let's see what it does. It looks like it just died. Really? We'll come back to it in a second. I'm just wondering if I need to re-log in. Pet portraits. I killed it somehow, but it did it earlier. This is the problem with live demos. You can go in and it will create an entire website for you. So that's really pretty cool. This is, let's hit surprise me again. These are different mobile apps here. Okay, it's crashed. But it's kind of a neat thing. What you don't see here is actual ChatGPT running something, right? So it's been buried. It's been buried. And that's important that you understand how this is working. Okay, so prompt engineering. So what is prompt engineering? Prompt engineering is what you ask ChatGPT to do. So when you saw here, I said rewrite this as a. I could also have said, or when I said here, I said I'm a ninth grader. Please write. You can write, I am a world-class marketing copywriter. Please write a headline for a website for the following business. Okay. And there it does, right? So it comes up with really neat marketing speech. If I had just said, rewrite this, it's going to come back with, I don't know. It came up with something, right? So it edited it, but it didn't do it this way. I am, or you could write you are, it doesn't matter, a third grader. Rewrite. Right. So maybe it's not so how you ask it to do things matters. Okay. Give it details. What grade level do you want? What language target do you want? So here's an example. Explain how CRMs work at a fifth grade level. So CRM is a content. So it's written now. What is a CRM? A customer relationship management system. So this is pretty cool, right? So if you're in fourth grade and you want to understand that, so you could do explain large language models, chat GPT to a kindergartner. Okay. So it sits down and writes things out. Now, it's unfortunately not written in a way that you can do this. So, write a child's book at a first grade level that explains ChatGPT to a kindergartner. So we're going to say, right, there it is. Okay, now that is not written at first grade reading level. However, it's right, you can start to see how it is much more appropriate in terms of language. Okay, so this is kind of cool. How do I use ChatGPT at Pfizer? I don't. So that's the kind of the biggest problem with all of this is that Inside of large companies, we're definitely, well, I do it a little bit. I use it to write Python code. We can't put in our own data into the model because we're worried about um, it being leaked either inside the company or outside of the company. And so I can only use it for public data. And at work, I use it to write Python code because it does an amazing job of writing Python code. So write a Python script that changes files from .7 BDAT to .csv, and it will write the Python script for me. Okay, so it tells me which packages to install. It writes the code, and I have all the code. My new joke is that my ChatGPT at work is my new summer intern. All right, so we're just about out of time. It's changing every day. So the Neuron is a good place. Some place like that, doesn't matter where you go. They're kind of fun to have. Just someplace where you can go. I get a dump every day of what's the new tools. And what do you need to think about? In general, it summarizes and rewrites better than it creates. It's very powerful. You do need to learn to use it. You need to think about data privacy. And most big companies don't understand it. So this is the one place, you guys, where students and people outside of large corporations are going to learn how to use a tool like this more than people inside of large companies. And so that's what's really cool here is that this is where sitting outside of a Fortune 500, you have access to better tools because you aren't restricted by corporate policies than you would inside of a company. So, any questions? If you have any other questions, you want to reach out, you want to network, reach out to me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/Nechama. It's down at the bottom. I will throw that into the chat as well. And thank you very much.